Penny from Heaven by Jennifer L. Holm. Chapter 5 The Luckiest Fella Ever. Part 1. The first difference between Mimi's kitchen and my Italian grandmother's is the smell. My grandmother Felucci's kitchen smells delicious, like basil and tomatoes and garlic. It makes your mouth water. The second difference is that Nani's kitchen is downstairs in the basement. There's a stove and a refrigerator and a big sink and a wooden cutting table and pots and pans. In the corner is a wringer washing machine. It's usually my job to help with the laundry, if I'm around, same as at my house. There's a regular modern kitchen upstairs that my Aunt Gina uses. Uncle Polly bought the house from my grandmother, but she still lives here and everyone still calls it her house. Nani doesn't approve of the way Aunt Gina cooks, and so she demanded a kitchen of her own in the basement. At first, Uncle Polly said no, but then he put one in to keep the peace. Uncle Polly spends a lot of time keeping the peace between the women in his life. I should have been a diplomat, he always says, shaking his head. At least I'd get paid. When I walk down the rickety basement stairs, Nani's back is to me. She's tiny, maybe 80 pounds, and her legs are like two thin black stocking toothpicks, poking out from underneath her black dress. I've never actually seen her in anything but black. Even her winter coat is black Persian lamb. Hi, Nani, I say. Nonna in Italian is grandmother. The story goes that I couldn't say Nonna when I was little, so I called her Nani, and it just sort of stuck. Now everyone calls her that. Nani turns around, takes one look at me, and bursts into tears. I sigh. I'm used to it, I guess. She cries every time she sees me. My father, Alfredo, who everyone called Freddie, was her favorite, the firstborn son. He was the first person in the family to go to college, and he became a newspaper writer. Everyone was so proud of him, especially Nani. His death was the worst thing that ever happened to the family, a real tragedy, which is why Nani wears black and cries every time she sees me. Tesoro mio, Nani says, wiping away her tears with a black lace handkerchief. She calls me Tesoro mio, which means my treasure. Nani doesn't speak English very well. I take my usual spot on the stool by the table, and she pushes a plate at me and says in her thick Italian accent, "Too skinny. Eat, eat." Sitting on the plate is something Nani calls pastoria, a dish made with spaghetti and eggs and cheese and black pepper that's baked and served cold. It's one of my favorites, so Nani cooks it all the time for me. I watch as her small, gnarled fingers knead dough for fresh macaroni. All the Italian women in my family make their own macaroni. Nani carefully rolls out the dough and then takes a sharp knife and cuts it into long strips and hangs it to dry on a wooden rack. Sometimes she lets me help her make it. Nani wipes her hands on her apron. We see your papa now, yes? She says this like it's a question, but I know it's not. Uncle Polly is already waiting for us in the upstairs hallway. There's my ladies, Uncle Polly says with a broad smile. My Uncle Polly's a big, round fella, probably because he has to eat 2 dinners every night, one cooked by Aunt Gina and one cooked by Nani. Nani ties a black lace scarf around her head. Paolo, she says and points to her gloves. Paolo is Polly's name in Italian. Here you go, Ma, Uncle Polly says, handing her the black gloves. Freddie, Nani says, waving at the wall in the hallway where there's a shrine to my dead father. There's a dozen photographs of him. At his first Holy Communion, at his graduation from high school, one with his arm around Uncle Dominic when they were young, the two of them grinning like they've got some big secret. Your father was a great man, Penny. Real good fella. Best brother ever, Uncle Polly says. I've heard this a million times, and I know the next part too. Nani starts crying. My Freddie, good boy. That's right, Uncle Polly says, a fat tear rolling down his cheek. Regular party in here, a voice says from the top of the stairs. It's Aunt Gina. She's wearing a white silk top with a fitted skirt and holding a cigarette. With her bleached blonde hair, she looks glamorous, like Marilyn Monroe. Hi, Aunt Gina, I say. Hi, doll, she says. Walking down the steps, eyeing Nani standing by the door with her scarf and gloves. Honey, I thought you said you were taking me shopping today. Polulo, Nani says. Uncle Polly lowers his voice. I gotta take Ma to see Freddie. The cemetery, Aunt Gina says, her voice dry. Uncle Polly nods uncomfortably. Sounds like a real swell time, Aunt Gina says, tapping her cigarette. Nani mutters something in Italian, and my eyes widen. I know that curse word. What's that, Mother Felucci? Aunt Gina asked loudly. Aunt Gina doesn't know much Italian, and she always thinks that Nani is trying to insult her, which is probably true because Nani doesn't like Aunt Gina. I personally think Uncle Polly is going bald trying to survive in a house with two women who don't get along. Frankie walks in the front door. Francisco, Nani says, and kisses him on both cheeks and hugs him tight until he wiggles free. Francisco means little Frankie. Where's everybody going? He asks, taking in the scene. The cemetery, I whisper. Oh, swell, Frankie says loudly. I love this cemetery. Aunt Gina taps her foot. Ready, Ma? Uncle Polly says nervously. We better get going. Aunt Gina glares at Uncle Polly, but he takes Nani by the elbow and practically shoves her out the door, saying, See you later, honey. As the screen door slams behind us, Aunt Gina shouts, I tell you, the only way to get someone to pay attention to you in this family is by dying. End of part 1.